In June 2024, the Oklahoma Supreme Court told two women, ages 110 and 109, that they were not entitled to a single dollar for the night a white mob burned their city to the ground. Their names are Viola Fletcher and Lessie Randle. They are the last two living survivors of the Tulsa race massacre. This is the story of Black Wall Street, the 35 blocks that were burned, the hundreds who were killed, the insurance claims that were never paid, and the country that, 105 years later, still has not made it right. I'm your host. This is Legends Untold. Story number 3. Greenwood, Oklahoma, 1921. 35 square blocks on the north side of Tulsa. 60 years after slavery ended, this neighborhood had become the wealthiest black community in America. Booker T. Washington called it the Negro Wall Street. The name stuck. Black Wall Street. Greenwood had its own grocery stores, its own banks, its own movie theaters, its own newspaper, the Tulsa Star. It had black-owned hotels with running water at a time when most of America did not. A dollar circulated through Greenwood 36 to 100 times before leaving the community. It had doctors, lawyers, 2 newspapers, a hospital, a public library, a school system that was, by some measures, better funded than the white schools across the tracks. It had been built by people one generation removed from being human property, sharecroppers and freedmen who came to Oklahoma because the state was supposed to be all black, a new start, a promised land. And on the night of May 31st, 1921, that promised land was burned to the ground. It started with an elevator. May 30th, 1921, Memorial Day. A 19-year-old black shoeshiner named Dick Rowland stepped into an elevator in the Drexel building on South Main Street. The operator was a 17-year-old white girl named Sarah Page. What happened in that elevator? No one alive truly knows. The most credible accounts say Rowland tripped, grabbed her arm to steady himself, and she screamed. A clerk heard the scream, called the police. Rowland was arrested the next morning. By that afternoon, the Tulsa Tribune ran a front-page headline that has since vanished from the historical record. The page was torn from the bound newspapers. The microfilm cut. We don't have the exact words, but we know what it said. It said a black man had assaulted a white girl. It said there would be a lynching that night. By evening, 2,000 armed white men had surrounded the Tulsa courthouse. 75 armed black men, many of them World War I veterans, arrived to defend Dick Rowland. A shot was fired. No one knows who fired first. The massacre began. What happened next was not a riot. A riot is 2 sides fighting. This was an extermination. White mobs, estimated at 10,000, poured across the Frisco Railroad tracks into Greenwood. They were armed. Many had been deputized that night by the Tulsa police, handed weapons, given badges, and told to go. They came with guns. They came with torches. They came with kerosene. And then they came with airplanes. This is one of the only documented cases in American history of private aircraft being used to bomb American citizens on American soil. Eyewitnesses described biplanes flying low over Greenwood, dropping turpentine bombs onto rooftops, shooting black residents from the air as they fled. The Mount Zion Baptist Church, newly built, dedicated only weeks earlier, was burned to its foundation. The Dreamland Theater, gone. The Stratford Hotel, the largest black-owned hotel in America, burned. The offices of the Tulsa Star newspaper, destroyed. The hospital, destroyed. By dawn on June 1st, 35 city blocks were ash. The official death count at the time was 36. Modern historians estimate the real number is between 100 and 300, possibly more. Mass graves are still being excavated in Tulsa today. 6,000 black residents were rounded up at gunpoint and held in internment camps at the Tulsa Fairgrounds. They could only leave if a white person vouched for them and gave them a green card. When the smoke cleared, black Greenwood residents tried to do what any American would do. They filed insurance claims. More than 150 claims were submitted to the city of Tulsa and to insurance companies for homes, businesses, and personal property burned to the ground. Every single claim from a black resident was denied. The insurance companies pointed to the riot exclusion clauses in their policies. Civil unrest, they said, was not covered, but the white-owned businesses that had been damaged, they were paid. Tulsa officials made sure of it. The estimated property loss in 1921 dollars was $1.8 million. In today's money, that is somewhere between $30 and $200 million, depending on how you calculate it. Not $1 was ever paid to a black survivor. And it gets worse. The city of Tulsa passed an ordinance 3 days after the massacre, requiring all new construction in Greenwood to be fireproof brick, the cost of which was deliberately set higher than what residents could afford. The goal was to keep them from rebuilding, to turn Greenwood into a rail yard. That ordinance was eventually overturned. Black Tulsans rebuilt anyway, with their bare hands and almost nothing else. But Greenwood would never again be what it had been. For more than 80 years, the Tulsa Race Massacre was scrubbed from American history. It wasn't in the textbooks. It wasn't in the newspapers. White Tulsa never spoke of it. Black Tulsa whispered about it. It took until 1997 for the state of Oklahoma to convene an official commission. Their final report, in 2001, recommended reparations. The state ignored it. In 2020, 3 survivors, Viola Fletcher, Lessie Randle, and Hughes Van Ellis, sued the city of Tulsa under the public nuisance statute. Hughes Van Ellis died in October 2023 at age 102. He never saw a verdict. In June 2024, the Oklahoma Supreme Court dismissed the lawsuit. Unanimous, 7-0. The court said the survivors' grievances were, quote, legitimate, but did not meet the legal standard for a public nuisance claim. Viola Fletcher is 110 years old. Lessie Randle is 109. They have now asked the Department of Justice to open a federal investigation. They are still waiting. A nation is not measured by what it builds. A nation is measured by what it admits. The Tulsa Race Massacre happened. The insurance claims were denied. The bodies were buried in unmarked graves that the city of Tulsa is still digging up today. 2 women remember it. 2 women who watched their fathers loaded onto trucks, watched their homes turn to ash, watched a country tell them for 105 years that what happened to them did not count. What we owe them is not complicated. We owe them the truth. Say their names. Viola Fletcher, Lessie Randle, Hughes Van Ellis. Say the name of the city that was burned. Greenwood. Don't let them erase it again. I'm your host. This is Legends Untold. Subscribe, share this. We have more to tell.